Hello everyone, I am Vikas Bhardwaj. I teach at RKST PG College, Kathal, and I am here to deliver an online video lecture on Introduction to Raja Rav's Kantapura, which is a prescribed text for BA final year, fifth semester in the subject of English under the common syllabi of the universities of Haryana. This lecture is being delivered on behalf of the DGHE Haryana. As I have just told you that this e-content is being developed under the aegis of the DGHE Haryana, and it is meant for the fifth semester of BA final year of the universities of Haryana. I hereby begin my presentation. Raja Rao was born on November 8, 1908 at Hassan, Mysore in present-day Karnataka, India, and he died on July 8, 2006 at Austin in Texas, United States of America. He was among the most significant Indian novelists writing in English during the middle decades of the 20th century. Well before India's independence from Britain in 1947, Raja Rao, along with writers like R.K. Narayan and Mulk Rajanand, commandeered the language of the colonizer to represent the experiences of the colonized. By evoking the sights, sounds, pleasures, and hardships of Indian village life, these writers forged the English literature of the 20th century. Descended from a distinguished Brahmin family in southern India, Rao studied English at Nizam College, Hyderabad, and then at the University of Madras, where he received a bachelor's degree in 1929. He left India for France to study literature and history at the University of Montpellier and the Sorbonne. And then he returned to India in 1933. This was the same year in which some of his earliest short stories were published in Europe and the United States. He stayed in India during the next decade, moving among ashrams. He also participated in the movement for Indian independence and engaged in underground activities against the British. Rao returned to France in 1948 and subsequently alternated for a time between India and Europe. He first visited the United States in 1950, and in 1966 he became a professor of philosophy at the University of Texas at Austin, though he continued to travel widely. He retired from the University of Texas and was named Professor Emeritus in 1980 post his retirement. Now, coming to the literary output of Raja Rao, Kantapura, or prescribed text, is Raja Rao's first novel, as it is in our curriculum. So we will of course be discussing it in detail. So now I start the second novel, The Serpent and the Rope, which is an autobiographical account of the narrator, a young intellectual Brahmin, and his wife seeking spiritual truth in India, France, and England. Rav's allegorical novel, The Cat and Shakespeare, A Tale of India, set in India, continues the themes examined in The Serpent and the Rope and shows Rav's work becoming increasingly abstract. Comrade Kirillov, a short novel written prior to The Serpent and the Rope but published in English in 1976, considers communism through its portrait of the title character. Rav's last novel, The Chess Master and His Moves, is peopled by characters from various cultures seeking their identities. It drew varying responses from reviewers. Apart from these novels, Rav has also written short stories which are collected in The Policeman and the Rose and On the Ganga Ghat. The next two works, The Meaning of India and The Great Indian Way, are Raja Rav's non-fiction works. The Meaning of India is a collection of essays and speeches, whereas The Great Indian Way is a biography of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Now, I am coming to the key facts about our prescribed text. The full title of the novel is, of course, Kanthapura, and paradoxically enough, given its concerns, Kanthapura was not published in India, but it was first published in England, in London, in 1938, and it was written when Rav was in France. So this was Chateau de Montemor was the name of the place where he had written this novel in the French Alps. And this place, it was a kind of a fort, and it belonged to the Dauphins of Dauphin family of France, which was a royal family. Now, coming to the period, literary period to which Kanthapura belongs. So it can be said that Kanthapura belongs to modern Indian literature, although the classification of Indian writing in English is not as distinct as in the case of British English literature. Still, we can say that it belongs to the modern Indian literature. As a literary honor, this is a novel, and then as a literary sub-honor, this work, or as a sub-form of novel, this work is a Sthal Puran, a kind of legendary history or a story told through the word of mouth. The setting of the novel is Kanthapura, which is a small village in the southwest India, and the time is roughly of 1930s. And if we talk about the point of view, that is how the story is narrated to the readers. So the point of view is first person oral history, and it is narrated by one of the characters of the novel, an aged lady, Achakka. Now, I am coming to the historical context of the novel. Kanthapura is set during the early days of the Indian independence movement that ultimately liberated the nation from British colonial rule in 1947, Kanthapura is totally a Gandhian novel, not only because it depicts the freedom struggle, but also it is a call for it calls for the social reforms and social awakening launched by Mahatma Gandhi. The freedom movement lasted for the entire duration of British colonialism, but the campaign of organized non-violent resistance preached and headed by Gandhiji began in the 1920s after a British general ordered his troops to shoot thousands of peaceful protesters at Jallianwala Bagh in Amritsar. After deciding that it would be immoral to cooperate with the British government, Gandhiji launched the non-cooperation movement in an attempt to achieve Swaraj, self-rule for India, by encouraging Indians to refuse foreign goods, particularly British liquor, wine and clothing. And he also encouraged people to resign from their posts in British schools and other government jobs. And he also asked people not to fight for the Britishers in the world wars, particularly in the Second World War. Gandhiji himself served 2 years imprisonment, he went on numerous hunger strikes. The hunger strike, which is known as Anshan in Hindi, it also included one to demand non-violence among his own supporters after a group of Gandhi loyalists burnt down a police station. Of course, this incident had taken place at Chora Chori. Gandhiji protested a new British tax on salt by marching nearly 400 kilometers to the seashore and making his own salt. He also gave women a prominent role in the independence movement. Ultimately, although the British imprisoned more than 1 lakh Indians on political grounds, Gandhi's explicit demands for independence in the 1940s, called the Quit India movement, ultimately succeeded, of course, on the 15th of August 1947. Kanthapura is not only about Gandhi and his followers' struggle for India's independence. This novel also aims at awakening the conscience of the country against all the ills and injustices which plagued India during those times. It advocates the eradication of untouchability and the caste system. It raises its concerns about the illiteracy, ignorance, and superstition. The novel is a strong document for the empowerment of women on all fronts. Now, coming to the reception of Kanthapura, as it has already been told that Rao had written the novel in a castle, 13th century castle, Chateau de Montemor in Alps mountains in France. Unfortunately, this was also the time of Hitler in Germany and Mussolini in Italy. A threat of war was looming large over the European continent. It was during this time that the book was published in 1938. It was a reasonable literary success. An English literary agent wrote an urgent letter to Raja Rao seeking his permission for the translation rights for Kanthapura into Czech, the language of Czechoslovakia. As Hitler had just walked into Prague,
the capital of Czechoslovakia. So according to Raja Rao, I quote, what they wanted it for was certainly not because of its literary value, but its essential Gandhian motive, unquote. Obviously, at the time of war and violence, there were a number of takers of Gandhian ideology of non-violence and truth. In the foreword, which has become a classic of its own kind, Rao says, I am quoting from the text, there is no village in India, however mean, that has not a rich Sthal Puran or legendary history of its own. Some god or godlike hero has passed by the village. So the novel is like a Sthal Puran or a story in oral tradition, a story told through the word of mouth. In the foreword, Rao also tells the readers about the problems of writing in English. He explains the way through which he attempts to introduce in English the speech rhythm of his own mother tongue. In fact, he does not write like the English and succeeds in adding local color to an alien language, of course English. Now, in order to understand the synopsis or the brief summary of the novel, we need to get ourselves familiar with the names of the characters, as the novel has a number of characters. So now we move to the discussion of the storyline, and as the novel has a number of characters, very large number of characters. So in order to have an understanding of the synopsis, we now discuss these characters. Achakka, the narrator of the novel, reveals little about herself, but we get to know that she is an elderly lady. She is a Brahmin, and her a typical thing about her is that she calls people by their physical characteristics, like poke marked Siddha or corner house Murti. So as I have already told you that she is the narrator of the story, but her narration is not straightforward. She narrates the story in a non-linear fashion, and the narration consists of digressions. So I mean, she keeps deviating from one thing to the other, and she keeps adding non-related ideas with the end. So it is Achakka's stream of conscious like technique through which the novel is narrated to the audience. Murthy is the central protagonist and Kanthapura's Gandhi. Next important character is Rangamma, who is a rich and educated widow in Kanthapura, who ultimately becomes the Gandhian movement's secondary leader. And then there is Ratna, who is Kamlamma's daughter, and she is also Murthy's supporter. She is a young girl of 15 whose husband died soon after she married him at the age of 10. So she is some kind of child widow, Bal Vidwa. The village treats her as a pariah or untouchable and a source of shame due to her widowhood. Bhatt is some kind of villain or negative character, a powerful and shrewd moneylender who amasses land and power in Kanthapura. And then there is Patel Rangegowda, Kanthapura's Patel or revenue collector, government representative, village headman and landlord. So Achakka compares the hot-tempered and powerful but lazy Patel to a tiger, noting that in Kanthapura nothing can be done without Rangegowda. So he has been shown to be a politically powerful person. Bade Khan is a Muslim police officer who moves to the Skeffington Coffee Estate to keep an eye on Kanthapura after Murthy hires the Harikatha man Jairam Achar to talk about Gandhi's movement. Then there are two English characters in the novel. One is Sahib, who is the owner of Skeffington Coffee Estate, and then there is the new Sahib, who is Sahib's nephew. Both the characters are shown to be very cruel, and they represent the colonial government's greedy motives. Then there is Waterfall Venkamma, who is Rangamma's sister-in-law and a widow, and Narsamma, Murthy's widowed mother. Kinchamma is not a character as such, but she is the goddess, patron goddess of the place Kanthapura. Then there is Jairamachar, who is a famed Harikatha man whom Murthy pays to come to Kanthapura in the first chapter of the novel. There is Rajanna, who is a coolie who joins the Gandhians early in the book and eventually becomes one of the group's most important leaders. Rachi is Rajanna's wife, who ultimately burns down the village of Kanthapura. She welcomes Murthy into Rajanna's house when he comes to discuss the village congress with a group of untouchable women, but Murthy is afraid to enter and drink the milk she offers him. So this is a very powerful scene in the novel. Murthy is a Brahmin, whereas Rachi belongs to the Pariya community, untouchable. She is an untouchable, but ultimately Murthy drinks that glass of water. Then these are the minor characters of the novel. Mahatma Gandhi is a character. He does not appear personally, but appears in Murthy's dream or vision. Dore is a young Brahmin boy from the village who went to the city for university, adopted city ways, and is widely called the university graduate, even though he did not even make it to the second term. So he keeps bragging about his degrees. Then there is Shankar, the secretary of the Congress committee. There is Mistri, the Sahib's right-hand man. The Mistri directly oversees the coolies as they work on the Skeffington Coffee Estate. So he also does the job of a translator for Sahib. Now, coming to the synopsis of the novel, Achakka begins her tale by situating Kanthapura in its immediate landscape. The Western Ghats mountains range in southwest India that has recently become a center of the British colonial spice trade. The village's patron deity is the goddess Kenchamma, who fought a demon on the Kenchamma hill above Kanthapura ages ago and has protected the villagers ever since. Achakka introduces the village's numerous residents of all castes, such as Brahmins, porters, and weavers, who are largely turning to agriculture. And finally, the Pariyas, who live in the decrepit huts at the edge of the town. So despite stratification and classification into castes, however, the villagers are mutually bound in various economic and social functions which maintain social harmony in the village. The time when the action of the novel is set is 1930s, the period when Mahatma Gandhi had become the pivotal figure in India's struggle for freedom. Rao treats the history of the freedom movement at the level of hostility between village folk and the British colonial authority at a time when colonialism had become intentionally heavy handed in its response to the civil disobedience movement. He focuses on two individual leaders and their beliefs, the actual and the mythicized figure of Gandhi, and his uh, transmutation into Murthy, the saintly hero of the novel. As the movement reaches Kantapura, young Murthy, son of a Brahmin woman, Narsamma, takes up the responsibility of spreading Gandhi's message. He brings about cultural awakening among the villages by organizing Harikathas or tales of gods. By a subtle subversion, the Harikatha is turned into an allegory of India's struggle for freedom, wherein the Gandhian saga is inscribed. He goes from door to door, even in the Peria quarter of the village, and explains to the villagers the significance of India's struggle for independence. He inspires them to take to charkha spinning and weaving their own cloth. In this task of organizing the freedom struggle in Kantapura, he is helped by Ratna, a young lady of progressive and enlightened views, and Patel Rangegowda, the revenue collector of the village. The colonial government, on its part, takes aggressive steps to counter the moves of the Gandhi man and to crush the movement. Policeman Bade Khan is posted in the village and he is actively helped and supported by Bhatt, the Brahmin. Murthy is excommunicated when Bhatt enlists the support of his Swami in the city. He is a powerful and religious and influential authority. He threatens to excommunicate all those who deal with or befriend with the Peria, and Murthy is actually excommunicated, and a few desert him. But on the whole, the people firmly believe the Gandhi movement, support the Gandhi movement. Uh, Reports regarding the Dandi March of the Mahatma to break the salt law and the enthusiasm it had evoked throughout the country reach the village and uplift the public morale. A number of satyagrahas and picketings take place. The villagers, under the leadership of Murthy, offer satyagraha outside the toddy plantation. The peaceful protesters are lathi charged by the police. As a result, they are wounded and hurt seriously. A large number of people are arrested and sent to jail. This is followed by the picketing of the toddy booth outside the Skeffington Coffee Estate. Government represses the movement even more ruthlessly this time. Even women, children and old men are not spared and they are beaten mercilessly. The suffering of the fellow villagers touches the heart of the workers of the Skeffington Coffee Estate, and they too join their suffering brethren. The atmosphere resounds with the shouts of Mahatma Gandhi ki jai, and this time even large number of people are arrested. Murthy is also arrested and sentenced to a long term of imprisonment. In his absence, Ratna looks after the Congress work in the village. Rao does not marginalize the role of women in the freedom movement and highlights their individual contributions. Rangamma and Ratna form women's volunteer groups despite opposition from the orthodox. When Murthy is released, he gets back to work. In the meantime, it is learned that Gandhi was launching the non-cooperation movement, not to pay taxes, especially the salt tax. Breaking the Salt Act was a convenient strategy for exposing the manifest injustice of colonial monopolies. The people are directed not to pay land revenue to the unjust colonial government. They should remain peaceful and non-violent even if their fields, crops, cattle and houses are auctioned and occupied. They remain non-violent in the beginning, but soon violence breaks out. Uh, Government is ruthless in its suppression. There are merciless lathi charges and even lootings. The atmosphere resounds with the shrieking and crying as well as with the shouts of Mahatma Gandhi ki Jai. The villagers put up a brave resistance, but ultimately they are compelled to flee. Their morale is broken. They have to leave Kanthapura, trudge along for miles over unknown territory, and finally find shelter in another village, Kashipura. After staying there, they feel like belonging to that very place and decide not to return to Kanthapura. After Gandhi's treaty with the colonial government, a number of political prisoners are released from the jail, which include Murthy and Ratna. Murthy becomes a follower of Jawaharlal Nehru and joins the movement for the equal distribution of wealth. Murthy doesn't return to Kashipura, however, Ratna does so. The only person who has returned to Kanthapura is Rangegowda, who tells Achakka that the village has been sold away to city people from Bombay. The brave resistance of Kanthapura people has given a jolt to the government, and as such jolts were being administered all over the country, the British government was bound to be shaken and overthrown in course of time. It was so overthrown in 1947 and the Britishers were forced to withdraw. The heroic struggle of the people of Kanthapura is thus a milestone in India's march towards independence. With this, this lecture is coming to an end. I have cited or consulted these works for the preparation of this video lecture, and this is my email ID. If you have any queries or any observation, then you can write to me. I will be happy to reply any question or any kind of other observation. Thank you very much.